Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I'm going to be doing another update on my experience taking Lexapro, this time at the 1 year mark. So of course I've previously done videos when I first started taking it after 1 month, 3 months and 6 months, and of course I'll link all of those down below in case you haven't seen them yet. But for the video today I'm basically going to be recapping everything over the past year and sharing any updates since the 6 month mark, since there are still things that I need to update on. And I think after this, the only time that I'll be updating on the future is if I notice any changes or one day when I stop taking it. But I'll get into that in a bit. For now, I'm just going to be talking about the past year. I wanted to say as well how grateful I am for all of the positive feedback on all of the previous updates, especially the first one that I did when I first started taking it, since I think that video did the best out of all of them. And all of the videos I do see regular comments still from people. A lot of you are still watching it and sharing your own experiences as well. So like I said, I'm very grateful for that, and it also seems like a lot of you are grateful for me sharing my experience as well. So I'm really glad that those previous videos have helped out, and hopefully this one will do the same. Now I guess I'll just start out with a few basics. I'm on 10 milligrams of Lexapro a day. I take mine in the morning since for me it just works better with my routine and it makes it a little bit easier to remember, just because I keep mine with my makeup. Take one in the morning when I do my makeup, and it's a pretty foolproof system for the most part. There are a handful of days that I've forgotten, or maybe 3 days or something, but for the most part, with that routine in place, it's pretty easy to remember for myself. Also, I thought I'd mention this is the first antidepressant that I've been prescribed and put on. I know sometimes people find that they have to try out many before they find one that works, but based on previous videos, you can probably already tell that I found this worked for me straight off the bat. That might not be the case forever, but for now, I do find that it works. And on that note as well, I've tried a few different kinds, different brands and things on Lexapro, but I don't notice a difference between them. I think I mentioned in my last update when someone asked me because they thought that generic ones affected them differently. It doesn't do that for myself. I know of course everyone's different, so some people will notice differences between them, but for myself I didn't. Now as for things that I did notice, we'll of course go through all the side effects that can happen or what I did experience and whether I still experience them now. I'd say the first thing and the biggest side effect that I noticed was the fact that it gave me a bit of a dry mouth or dry throat feeling, and it was something that I was warned about from my chemist when I picked up the prescription, and also of course the doctor, because I guess it's a pretty common one. And while it was weird to imagine what that would be like when it started, after a few weeks or maybe even days, I thought this is definitely what they're talking about. Kind of like a sick feeling, just my throat being so dry and constantly needing to drink water, which I guess, like I've said a few times, maybe isn't the worst side effect if it's increasing my water intake. But this is something that stuck with me for months. Started out pretty strong, and over time I was used to it, but it was still there. Now I think it might still be happening for me, but perhaps I'm just so used to it now, this is the new normal for me. I don't know when I go off it if I will feel a difference, because like I said, I'm used to it or it's backed off. I couldn't tell for certain, but I've got to say for the first maybe 7 or 8 months, all I could feel all the time was pretty much the feeling of a dry throat and a little bit of dry mouth. Another thing I noticed pretty early on, and this was a bit more short-lived, but after I first started taking Lexapro, I felt like I had a lot of energy, almost like a few days into taking it, it was as if I was taking life pills or energy pills or something like that. But of course beforehand, before starting the Lexapro, I felt very flat, low mood, kind of lazy, and well, depressed obviously, but after taking it, I just felt invigorated. I'm not sure how else to explain it. I did notice, however, over time that the energy did back off a little bit, and again, I just feel more so normal now, so I've got energy. I definitely don't feel drained, but I don't feel like I'm full of jumping beans or something like the first few days after I started taking them, and the first few weeks I think is how long it stuck around for me. Another thing that I noticed pretty early on, and this was again kind of a big one, when I first started taking Lexapro, a few days after, or maybe it was a few weeks into it, I went out to a concert with one of my friends and had 1 beer, but it felt like I had about 4 or 5 when I normally have that many, if that makes sense. So I didn't feel sick, and I didn't have a hangover the next day, but it just felt in the moment of drinking like the alcohol hit me quicker and a lot harder than it should normally. Funnily enough, on this point, I thought I'd mention a few people see this as a bit of a positive thing, kind of like now you're a cheap drunk if you get affected by alcohol. and it can save a bit of money. Or maybe if you normally would have a few drinks to relax and unwind, you only need to have one now, if you experience that like me. So I've kind of thought about that now since people have said it, and I guess that could be seen as a positive thing. And I understand what people are saying, but I just want to say be careful, obviously. If you do take Lexapro or any antidepressants or medication, if it affects you with alcohol, obviously be careful, still live your life and have fun. I know someone said just stop drinking, but it's not a problem. It just kind of seems like I get affected a bit more. And apparently it's not a bad thing. I checked with my doctor and they said that it's not a negative reaction, but just to use my own judgment, which is fair. But yes, that's another thing I thought I'd mention. Positive maybe, but still, I guess I'm just always a little bit wary when I drink now. And I think everyone should be as well. Just general life advice, really. Now, there are also a few common side effects that a lot of people experience that I didn't have when I started Lexapro or since taking it, and I thought I'd run through those. The big one that I was told to expect was to get headaches, and I was very worried about that because I hate headaches. I mean, obviously we all do, but I'm someone that's kind of prone to headaches and dizziness and things, so I was pretty worried, but luckily I didn't have anything like that. By some miracle, I just didn't, and that was really nice when starting, that I didn't have that on my plate as well as the dry mouth and things. I think starting out was actually pretty easy to phase into for myself compared to some other people's experiences that I've read. Another side effect that I luckily didn't experience was any weight changes, since apparently that's another common one. I guess with any sort of medication, sometimes people will have weight gain or weight loss, but I didn't have anything like that. I do want to clarify, I think in my first video I did mention I thought it might, Lexapro might have been causing me some appetite loss when I first started, and if it did, it certainly passed pretty quickly, or maybe it was relating to something else. But I think when I first took it for like a week, I just didn't feel hungry at all. But like I said, that passed, and I don't think my weight or appetite has been really affected in the past year. The last side effect that I didn't experience is a big one that I did want to mention. Of course, it's something that a lot of people talk about, and you might be able to guess before I say it. It is, will Lexapro affect sex drive? For me, it didn't. This obviously isn't a topic I talk about on my channel at all, but I feel like this is relevant, obviously, and an important one, since I know it's quite a scary thing for some people, and it could put people off taking antidepressants and seeking help, and I don't think it should. Obviously, take guidance from your doctor, but taking antidepressants isn't a surefire death sentence for your sex life or anything like that. It certainly wasn't the case for me, but just something to think about. Obviously, any changes like that in life would be a big deal for most adults, so I think it's something to think about, but don't be put off from seeking help or taking medication just because there are lots of different types out there, and obviously your doctor will be able to guide you. Now, apart from all of those points that I've just mentioned, there are also some things that I've noticed long term after taking Lexapro that I may have just barely touched the surface on in previous videos or not discussed yet. For example, the fact that I have had some of the weirdest dreams and nightmares over the past year. I think in my early videos I said I didn't think I was getting them or I wasn't getting them, but now looking back on the past year, I'm pretty sure that I did get some weird Lexapro dreams. I've had some of the weirdest dreams and nightmares over the course of my whole life in this past year. I think at the start I wasn't sure if it was from the Lexapro or not, or I didn't think I was getting them, but this is me reflecting on a month when I said it versus now a year looking back on the whole year, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting the weird Lexapro dreams. And it's hard to explain how they're weird or different, but they just are, without going into detail and saying, to kind of give you a picture on what I'm experiencing. I guess I'm just having very vivid dreams, which I didn't used to. They're kind of quite lifelike, but at the same time, a lot of the time I do know I'm dreaming, so that's just a bit strange. And they're just different, kind of easy to recall as well, which is strange for me. I normally just forget all of my dreams, but maybe they're easier to remember because they are so weird. Over time as well, I've really noticed that I do feel happy a lot of the time, and very rarely am I sad or stressed or anxious, but a lot of the time I do feel neutral. And another thing, apparently I can't cry anymore. I used to definitely describe myself as a crier. I'd cry over little things, sad movies, sad songs, memories, and sad things in life, obviously. But now, I think I might have maybe cried 2 or 3 times in the past year, in a whole year, which is crazy to think about for me compared to before. Obviously this is a bit of a sensitive point. I don't know if anyone else experiences it, but it's just so strange. Right now, if something sad happens, I feel sad, I feel emotion, but don't have that physical release, nor do I feel like I need to. I don't feel like it's bottled up. I just don't cry or sort of physically have any expression for it. Although I do still feel the sadness, if that makes sense. And same with watching sad movies, because maybe that's an easier way to think about. I used to really cry in a lot of sad movies, but now I just don't. I'm going to clarify as well. I'm not completely numb or anything like that. I have cried a handful of times in the past year, but just normal things that would prompt me to cry, like small things, don't cause it. It's normally just bigger things now. Also, there's something that kind of might seem like it contradicts my energy spike that I mentioned before, or I guess on the opposite end of the spectrum. I've got to say now, looking on the past year and how I feel now a lot of the time, I do feel pretty tired. I'm not lazy or drained, but I just feel a bit more tired, I guess. It's hard to remember time before Lexapro really at this point with little things like this. I know I was definitely sluggish because I was depressed, but I don't know if I was necessarily tired like I am now. And I suppose maybe I could describe it as sleepy in a better way. I definitely fall asleep a lot quicker because I don't have insomnia anymore, but it also takes me a really long time to wake. I feel like I just sleep so hard now, and that's a strange feeling for me. Plus, I used to get by on 5 hours sleep, and now I need a full 8 hours, which is definitely a lot. Sometimes I get away with 7, but a full night's sleep for me used to be unheard of. So maybe that's just more of a normal thing that I'm experiencing now compared to my old wacky sleep cycle. Now the next one is a bit of a random and more specific to me one, but I'm clenching my jaw a lot less than I used to, and I've done different things in the past for it because my body was so stressed and manifesting these sorts of actions like clenching my teeth at night. I even fractured a tooth once. I've spoken a bit about the fact I used to get Botox for it, and for the last little while, a few years actually, I didn't have any Botox in my jaw. I was jade rolling, which I've spoken about a little bit to try and massage my jaw, and also going through therapy and taking Lexapro to treat my stress and the actual cause of the teeth grinding. And for a long time that really helped. I did recently get another top-up of Botox in my jaw for the first time in, I want to say 3 years, and that was only just due to a really stressful period in the Christmas season, but prior to that I wasn't having any issues with clenching my jaw. I was just having a few bad weeks and needed a bit of Botox to be able to get talking and eating again. But long story short, I think what I'm trying to say is the stress relief from the Lexapro has definitely helped stop the stressful action of my body clenching my teeth. And maybe this would help with people that get things like stress breakouts as well. Another thing I guess I could talk about in this category is stress breakouts. I mean, it's really hard to say what is a stress breakout when it starts, if it's caused by a stressful moment. I feel like I've had them from time to time in the past, and eating dairy, just existing, I can break out, or I have in the past. Not doing it anymore. But yeah, maybe that's something that you could experience if you have stress breakouts or teeth grinding or clenching, stressful reactions, or reactions from stress I should say. Maybe they'll subside too if you start taking Lexapro, if you're new to taking it, hopefully, because while being happy and treating your mental health seriously is good, having extra little perks like that sure are nice as well. I guess something to sum up on my emotional state as well. I still feel anxious from time to time, of course, from a specific stressor, like a bad day at work or something, but I don't have the random anxiety attacks like I used to. I used to have these moments just out of the blue where I'd feel anxious from nothing, or nothing that I knew, but I would just have that feeling. A lot of the times it was before bed, which I guess also contributed to my insomnia, but they would just come out of nowhere, and I used to get them all the time. I think looking back, I've maybe had a handful this year, which is pretty good, and probably only one full-blown panic attack, which is pretty amazing compared to the frequency in which they used to occur. Also, I just feel like in day-to-day life, I'm more social. I find it a little bit easier to be social with people. I still think I'm a bit socially awkward and I'm not the most outgoing person in the room, but now I definitely feel a lot more confident and chatty with people, whereas I used to put the walls up right away and just shut down in social situations. I guess I'm just better with people, and I feel like I can confidently say I'm better at my job since starting this, just from being happy. I now also wanted to touch on the subject of discontinuation symptoms by missing a pill, which I think I mentioned in my previous video, maybe only once. I think I said that I thought I experienced it but wasn't quite sure. Now I do believe I can pretty confidently say that by forgetting my pill the next day after I was due to take it, if that makes sense. So I have mine in the morning. If I miss the next morning and I'm stuck at work without a pill, I do really feel just not quite right as the day goes by. A few hours after I've been due to take it and haven't, I normally do get a bit of a headache that starts, and by the end of the day I've had quite a throbbing headache and a bit of brain fog. Luckily I've only forgotten about 3 pills in the course of a year, but I did notice those symptoms each time. So again, this could be something that's imagined, but I think I've heard that, you know, the day after a few hours, apparently some people will feel this, and I think I do. And that feeling stuck around until a few hours after I finally took my dose, whether it was that night or the next day, depending on the situation. But I think I might go back to a plan that I said a couple videos back on always keeping a spare with me. For some reason, I just don't want to carry them with me all the time. I know that would solve it, but in case I swap handbags, I don't want to miss it. And like I said, I normally like to take it when I do my makeup, since for the most part it's easier to remember, but I might just cut one off and keep it in my wallet or something. It's a good idea, I think, for anyone else if you're worried about missing it, or any other medication, I suppose. Something I'm definitely going to do again, since it got me out of a few pickles when I was doing it before. But now with that, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about, so hopefully that answers any leftover questions if anyone had any. And I think I managed to get through all points. I had a long list of things I wanted to get through and I touched on all of them, so hopefully this video is helpful. I know obviously I spoke about a few downsides, and I think they're honestly such a small price to pay for the upsides. I just wanted to reiterate again that my life is so much better now, and I don't want to say that I'm taking a happy pill or that the Lexapro is the reason for me being happy. It's not like you take a pill and it makes you happy. I'm certainly not happy all the time, but I'm just not feeling super down in the dumps and depressed, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't know if I ever explained that I was prescribed this Lexapro because I was high-functioning depression and very obvious anxiety. So obviously people watching this video will be in different circumstances. Maybe you are in the same category as me. Perhaps you are more depressed, even though that feels weird to say, or maybe you're supporting a loved one who is taking antidepressants or Lexapro. Maybe you have nothing to do with it and you just stumbled across this video because you're interested. But either way, I do hope you found this video helpful, if you've made it to the end especially. And even though I think I've probably addressed every possible topic, if you still have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below asking, and I'll answer you. I know a lot of people leave their stories as well, or they have on previous videos, so if you wanted to talk about how you're going, please leave a comment down below, because I'd love to chat with you about that as well. If you want any support from me or any other commenters, since it seems like it's been a pretty good environment on previous videos, and I really love to see that. But now I will be leaving you here today, so I just wanted to thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it or found it helpful. Please give me a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. But like I said, I'll be leaving you here, so I just wanted to thank you once more, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!